Morning. Welcome to Second Unitarian Church. I am Greg Potts, a member of the Board of Trustees, and my pronouns are he, him. Today we are in person at the Admiral at the Lake, the 2U Sanctuary, and continuing to meet virtually using Zoom. We ask everyone's indulgence for the complications of a 3-part service. We ask we're glad you're here, whichever way you are attending. If you are in the sanctuary and would benefit from hearing assistance, we have devices available, as well as noise-canceling headphones for both adults and children with noise sensitivities. Please see our tech team in the back. We welcome people to wear masks during the service. This practice prevents transmission of viruses and helps us center the needs of those who are most vulnerable. We especially welcome newcomers and visitors this morning. Finding a new community and making new connections can be challenging. Please know that we're excited to have you and look forward to getting to know you. If you're new to us today, please note that in the Zoom chat or mention it during conversation after the service. If you would like, there are blue mugs you can use to signal to others that you would like them to come up and say hello. We also need people in the kitchen after coffee hour, and that's a great place to see old friends and make new ones. Our worship today is led by our own Reverend Michael W. Brown, whose pronouns are he, him. Reverend Michael was the adult RE chair and board chair at 2U before attending seminary at Meadville. He then was the Unitarian Universalist minister in Peoria, Illinois, and minister in residence at First UU in San Diego before retiring. He is assisted by Jim Simonis as worship associate. Music is provided by Carl Kennedy. Our time together requires a large group of people who make possible the worship, the music, and the technical production. They are listed in the order of service, and we thank them for their ongoing care of our congregation. I have a couple of announcements for you this morning. WOW, our Wise Older Women's Group, will meet today at 1 p.m. via Zoom. WOW actively supports and addresses the challenges associated with aging for women ages 60 and above. Their approach involves regular member check-ins and insightful presentations on topics relevant to older women. For more details, please see your order of service. Tomorrow, the Social Justice Ministry will hold their monthly meeting at 7 p.m. via Zoom. The purpose of the Social Justice Ministry is to promote, support, and facilitate the social justice interests and ministries of the congregation consistent with our UU values. It aims to empower and leverage the efforts of 2U congregants to make their world more just and compassionate. For more information and the link to join, please see your order of service. I welcome Jim Simonis to lead us in our call to worship.
Good morning. We are a Unitarian Universalist congregation, a community of children, youth, and adults, a people of many beliefs and traditions, bound not by the specific list of things we believe, but by the values we share. Whether you are joining us for the first time or the 1000th time, you are welcome here. Whether you believe in God some of the time, all of the time, or none of the time, you are welcome here. Whatever you love, whomever you love, whatever your race, whichever way you move in the world, however much money is in your pocket, you are welcome here. I invite you now, when you feel ready, to take a breath in and out. As the music begins, let us enter into our service together.
Check, there it is. Good morning. I am going to teach you a song for our intro, and I hope you will sing along with me. This song comes from the Jewish-American singer-songwriter Bat Levine. And their music has a really universal universal message, though it comes from a deep-rooted sense of their Jewish faith. And in addition, they are very generous about allowing music to be shared and encouraging music to be shared across faiths, in EU spaces, and Christian spaces, and all that. So I also just want to give a shout out to Bud. This song is called May I Be Empty. And the words are very simple. It's just, may I be empty and open to receive the light. May I be empty and open to receive. And then the second part just says, may I be full and open to receive the light. May I be full and open to receive. There's also a harmony part, and I do see a few choir members here in the audience, so I may teach that as well. Also, I do not know how to play this thing. So the melody is, may I be empty and open to receive the light. Can you see that? May I be empty and open to receive the light. And may I be empty and open to receive. That's together. May I be empty and open to receive the light. May I be empty and open to receive. May I be full and open to receive the light. May I be full and open to receive. May I be empty. May I be empty and open to receive the light. May I be empty and open to receive. May I be full. May I be full and open to receive the light. May I be full and open to receive. Good. Keep that going. May I be empty. May I be empty and open to receive the light. May I be empty and open to receive. May I be full. May I be full and open to receive the light. May I be full and open to receive. May I be empty. May I be empty and open to receive the light. May I be empty and open to receive. May I be full. May I be full and open to receive the light. May I be full and open to receive.
Good morning. What a good thing to be here today. I'm so happy. In just a moment, Marion here in the sanctuary and Harris at the Admiral will light our chalices, the symbol of our faith. We light our chalices this morning with these words from Pat Uribe Lichty. We come from many places, along different paths, bringing different truths. We come with different histories and realities, yet we come together as one people, with faith that we can use our differences to heal ourselves and each other, to bring wholeness to a fractured world. We come seeking to find community, to find acceptance of who we are. In this place, May we find others who are much like us and others who are different. May our chalice remind us that we are a people taught by many stories with many voices, but always one people, working for a world where love creates justice and justice gives birth to peace. Would you please rise in body or spirit and join in singing our opening hymn, number 1053, How Could Anyone?
Please remain standing and join me in reciting our covenant. The words are on your screen. We covenant to build a community that challenges us to grow and empowers us to honor the truth within ourselves. We will be generous in our gifts and honest in our communication, holding faithful to a love that embraces both diversity and conflict. Called by our living tradition, we will nurture spirituality within a vision of the eternal, living out our inner convictions through struggles for justice and acts of compassion.
Please lift your voices with me once more as we sing our congregational hymn, number 123, Spirit of Life.
Yes, you may be seated, but anyone who is young and physically young or emotionally young, come forward and listen to our story. Yes, you can't be a parent and not stay young. Our story today is Mira and the Big Story. She is a story about a young girl who was very curious and who asked questions. I think many of you are just like her. Lots of questions. Mira lived in a village that was in a valley with a river that ran through it. On the other side of the river was another village. These two villages told many stories, but each village had a different story about the beginning. One village told a story about a king of heaven that sent giant birds to a flat, rocky plain and commanded them to build mountains, to claw out channels for the river, and to bring their ancestors to the new homeland. The land was a gift to them from the King of Heaven. The other village told a story of how the Queen of Earth searched high and low for the perfect people to make their home in the valley. She sent giant turtles to carry the new settlers to the valley. The land was a gift to them from the Queen of Earth. Day after day, year after year, the people of each village told and sang their own stories until they could no longer imagine the beginning of life in the valley any other way. On opposite sides of the river, when the river villagers looked across and saw others celebrating a different story of the beginning, they became angry. "That's not how the story goes," they all complained bitterly. "This is our valley. It was a gift to us. We belong here. There is no room for the others." Mira grew up in her village and heard her village's story of the beginning. She knew the valley belonged to her people and that the others were enemies. She knew they did not belong, but she was curious about them. She climbed a tree by the river and looked over at the other village. She even waded across the river at a more shallow point and saw how familiar everything looked. One day, Mira crossed the river and was getting ready to return to her village when she fell and cut her foot. A small boy scrambled down from a tree. "Are you hurt?" he asked. "How can I help you?" He then supported her as they waded across the river back to Mira's side of the river. And "Who are you?" Mira asked. "Where did you come from?" "Do you suppose you are the only one who is curious about the people on the other side?" he replied. "I watch also, but you were the first to come to the other side. That was brave. I hope we meet again." Mira was confused. The others were not supposed to be kind. The others were not supposed to be curious. The others were not supposed to be like her. Could the stories be wrong? Mira went to old Alfred, who lived by the river in a cottage full of books. He was wise and let the children eat his raspberries and drink lavender lemonade. Old Alfred, I need your help. I have a big question, she said. Then she told him about her secret trips and meeting the boy. So, what is your question? Old Alfred asked. Are the stories wrong? She asked in a small voice. Mira, let me tell you something about stories. Stories can make you bigger, not on the outside, of course, but on the inside. They can stretch your mind and heart, but a story can make you smaller if it takes up all the space in your mind and heart. When new people or new ideas come along, there is no room for them. Our minds and hearts need to be stretched so we can have room for others. There will never be peace in this valley until the people in both villages find a story big enough for all of them. What kind of story could be big enough for everybody? She asked. In the beginning, there was nothing, yet there was everything. Then there was light, not ordinary light, but pure energy. Out of it came unimaginably small bits of matter, the first stuff. Some matter came together and formed stars. When the time came for them to die, the stars exploded. All the stuff inside them was scattered into space. From that stardust came everything, galaxies and social systems, and a little blue planet called Earth. From that stardust came the mountains and the valley and the river and 2 villages. From that stardust came an old man and his garden and a girl named Mira and a boy who's still a stranger. We all come from the same place, and we are all made of the same stuff. We are neighbors on this little planet of ours, sailing through space. Mira felt like her mind and heart were so full they would burst. I like your story, Mira said. I think it is big enough for everyone. Well then, said old Alfred, perhaps you can share this story with someone else. I will, promised Mira. I already know where to start. Thank you. You may go back with your parents.
Each year in this UU church and lots of other UU churches, we make commitments or a pledge to support the ministry of our communities. In addition to this contribution, each Sunday we take a collection so that we can share with those doing justice beyond our church community as well. While we're unable to come together all in one person, you can still share your resources if you wish. To make a contribution, you can send a text to the number that is on the screen, which will be up after the offertory words, or you can also find it in your order of service. You can also drop off cash or a check to the donation box located in the Palmer Room, directly to your right after you exit the sanctuary. For the month of July, we're sharing our plate with the Unitarian Universalist Advocate Network of Illinois. And Kristen Clues will now share with us some information about that great organization.
Hello. My name is Kristen Clues, and I serve on the board of UUANI as its treasurer. UUANI stands for Unitarian Universalist Advocacy Network of Illinois, and our mission is to build power among UU congregations in Illinois to accountably advocate for those who have been historically marginalized. UUANI works to carry out this mission in a lot of different ways. There are too many, in fact, for me to list them all for you today. So I'm going to try to focus on a few that I think might interest people in our congregation. Most of our work is built on developing leadership and building movements both within and between UU congregations. If this sounds really intimidating to you, then you might really like the ways that UUNI breaks this down into multifaceted programs and initiatives. And first I'm going to tell you about the program that got me hooked, which is UUNI's Actions of the Week. Actions of the Week are sent to those who sign up for the service. Each action has to do with either state or federal legislation regarding issues like restorative justice, reproductive and LGBTQ rights, immigration, economic justice, voter engagement, climate justice, and I'm sure that I missed something in there, but you get the idea. We're seeking to address UU values. And each action has a boilerplate message that's pre-written, but each subscriber can choose to add to or completely rewrite it. As someone who often struggles with both technology and letter writing, I have to attest to just how easy and amazing the Actions of the Week are. After you first sign in, your information is automatically loaded for all future actions. And so all I have to do is open an email, read the prompt, follow the link. Sorry, I'm missing my place here. And unless I need to add something to the message, all I have to do is click submit. And suddenly, I've successfully sent that message to all of the officials in my districts that have voting rights on the issue at hand. And I can't imagine a better way or an easier way to make, I cannot imagine a way to make civic engagement easier. And as a bonus, I find out about all kinds of legislation that I had no idea were happening on issues that I really care about. So, Actions of the Week, though, are not the only thing that, only one thing that only one committee in UUANI works on. Another thing that UUANI board members and employees do to facilitate our collective goals is we go to a whole bunch of meetings so that you don't have to. This is our networking function. We hold monthly and quarterly meetings for each major affinity group. Within UUANI, there are prison ministry meetings, reproductive justice meetings, vote love meetings, just to name a few. And outside of UUANI, we go to meetings for other statewide groups like Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights, or ICER, to get information and to find resources. We go to these meetings to find out what others are doing, what worked, what didn't work, so that we can report back to our own congregations on what might work for us. And we don't have to build movements up from scratch in each congregation. We can learn from and help each other. We can build our movements together to lift up our values into a wider world. This is what UUNI aims to do for Illinois. There are many other amazing programs and initiatives that UUNI leads, like our Catalyst programs, and anyway, there are a lot of other things that we lead, but other people in this other people here want to actually lead a service for you today, so I'm just going to close by saying that if you want to learn more, please feel free to come and talk to me about them, and or go to the official UUANI website, uuani.org.
Now I invite you to join me in reading our offertory words. The words are printed in your order of service and are on the screen. This church is the community of ourselves. Its energy and resources are our energy and resources. Its wealth is what we share. As we contribute to the life of this community, we affirm and enable its participation in the larger world around us. The offering will now be generously given and gratefully received.
I'd like to invite us now to take a few moments for a quiet time of meditation and prayer. And I just invite you to sit comfortably, and if you want to close your eyes, that's fine. Let us just pay attention to being here and our breath in and out. In and out. Spirit of life and love, we give thanks for the gift of this day, for this moment of greeting friends, both old and new. We gather in difficult times. We are a people divided by deeply contrasting beliefs and wounded hearts. We wonder if there are any resources that will make it possible for us to live together in peace on this precious planet. We are people searching for a path forward, somewhere down some as yet undiscovered road. We pray today for new insight, for deeper wisdom, for stronger commitment, and the revitalizing experience of loving our endlessly fascinating neighbors. May we open ourselves to be renewed, even surprised by freshly noticed possibilities. May we be open to wisdom that has not yet shown its face. May she whisper in our ear a message that lifts our spirit. And may the blessings of love and the creativity of the universe be in our hearts as we journey forth on life's adventure. In the name of all that is holy, amen. Blessed be. So during our ritual of lighting candles for our joys and concerns, we want to continue to take care of each other. And in our sanctuary this morning, you're invited to come forward and light a candle if you wish. And as you end your time of contemplation and candle lighting, if you like, we invite you to use the hand sanitizer that's provided. For those at the Admiral, I invite you to come forward and take a pebble from one bowl, hold it tightly, putting your energy into the stone, and then knowing that your joys and sorrows are shared by this community, let it go lightly into the other bowl. You are welcome to come. I really appreciate that music. We hold all these joys, celebrations, sorrows, and struggles close to our hearts. And now, a reader who is a familiar face to many of you, my partner, Diane Brown.
Hi, as Michael said, I'm Diane Brown, a long-term, once upon a time two-year, proudly, she, her pronouns. Our first reading this morning is by Adrienne Marie Brown, an Afrofuturist, author, Black feminist, and activist. When we are engaged in acts of love, we humans are at our best and most resilient. The love in romance that makes us want to be better people, the love of children that makes us change our whole lives to meet their needs, the love of family that makes us drop everything to take care of them, the love of community that makes us work tirelessly with broken hearts. Perhaps humans' core function is love. Love leads us to observe in a much deeper way than any other emotion. If love were the central practice of a new generation of organizers and spiritual leaders, it would have a massive impact. If the goal was to increase the love rather than winning or dominating a constant opponent, I think we could actually imagine liberation from constant oppression. We would suddenly be seeing everything we do, everything we meet, not through the tactical eyes of war, but through the eyes of love.
Our second reading is from Swami Vivekananda at the 1893 Parliament of World Religions here in Chicago, which in fact was attended by our founding minister, Reverend Robert Collier, who is still with us in the back corner, guarding our baptismal font. Now for the reading. If the Parliament of Religions has shown anything to the world, it is this. It has proved to the world that holiness, purity, and charity are not the exclusive possessions of any church in the world, and that every system has produced men and women of the most exalted character. In the face of this evidence, if anybody dreams of the exclusive survival of their own religion and the destruction of the others, I pity them from the bottom of my heart and point out to them that upon the banner of every religion will soon be written, in spite of resistance, help and not fight, harmony and disease, harmony and peace and not dissension.
I want to begin today with a story. It's a story from when I was a kid, and it's a true story. When I was 4 years old, my father died one night in a car accident. And as you might guess, that changed my whole life. I mean, just shot the pattern off in a totally new direction. And part of what happened to me as a result of that is that my mom had some health problems, and so my brother and I went to live with some relatives for about 5 years. And that was 2nd through 6th grade for me. And our relatives were Southern Baptists, and my uncle who we stayed with was a Southern Baptist minister. So I had a really, good, strong dose of Southern Baptist life. And one of the things I used to do is talk to my uncle about his sermons. So we had about a 20-minute drive home. And so whatever the topic was, I would talk to him. And looking back, I'm really quite glad I had those conversations, because it's kind of waking me up to spiritual and religious issues. So one day on the way home, I asked my uncle if the Buddhists are going to hell. That's a nice, simple question, Yes or no? Are the Buddhists going to hell? And he did his best. I mean, really, he was burning on every cylinder to answer that question. And the truth is, I was not satisfied with his answer. The answer was kind of, the only way to be saved from that is to, put your faith in Jesus. And so I was not totally comfortable with that answer, but it is true that a few months later after that, I think about 6 months, I did get saved. And I did get baptized, and that did seem to help somewhat. It decreased my anxiety a little bit. But I do want to also share that I had a good friend at that time who decided not to get saved or baptized because he had counted the number of seconds you have to stay under the water, and he had determined he could not hold his breath that long. So people can make religious decisions for all kinds of interesting reasons. It's not always theological. It may have nothing to do with it. When I was 12, my brother and I moved back to live with our mother, who lived in Chicago on the south side in Hyde Park. And boy, was that a different world for me. And I found that new world so fascinating, I really kind of forgot about all that stuff, the religion stuff, for quite a while. And I focused on my attention on trying to adapt to this new urban life, and particularly on the question of how to be cool. And that quest pretty much occupied me for my teen years. That was my major challenge. But then when I became a young adult, the questions sort of started to come back, and I started reading lots of books, and I learned to meditate, which is one of the best things I ever did. And I traveled a bit, and I tried to ponder how these very different parts of my life could fit together into some kind of wholeness. When Diane and I got married, her parents brought us to visit 2U, right in this very room. And remember, Diane's mom, it was turned around, but it was this room. And Diane's mom lighting a candle for us that Sunday in church. We were a new couple. When I got here and I experienced the acceptance of 2U and the diversity of the community, and also I really appreciated that nobody seemed to believe in hell here. So I thought that was a real plus too. And I just felt, this is my place. Yeah, that was my overwhelming reaction. This is my place. And so I got all involved and I've had a great time, pretty much a great time, not every single day, but pretty much a great time ever since. And that was the first time I ever found, I love the freedom of Unitarianism. That freedom and that I could ask any question and I wouldn't get in trouble. And I'd probably get in a good conversation with somebody if I asked some question that seemed unusual. And then, again, I was so glad that the Universalist side of our heritage took a strong stand against hell and said, nope, that's not going to work. Comedian George Carlin puts it this way: religion convinced the world that there's an invisible man in the sky who watches over everything that you do, and there's 10 things that he doesn't want you to do, or you'll go to a burning place with a lake of fire until the end of eternity, but he loves you. That's the contradiction. That is the contradiction that the Universalists latched right onto. That's an unresolvable contradiction. After seminary, I was fortunate enough to be called to the Universalist Unitarian Church of Peoria, which is about 3 hours down the road from here, a nice drive. A church who had Universalist roots. I mean, if you go there today, you can't tell that it's Universalist or Unitarian, but that's the roots of that church. Pre-Civil War church back to 1843. And if the church records are correct, that church was once the largest Universalist church in the United States in the 1920s, around about the 20s, with about 1,000 members. And so it really had a tradition there. And I had wonderful years there, and as time went on, I began to appreciate this Universalist heritage more and more and began to ponder that tradition. And I began to realize that the Universalists had the answer to the question I asked my uncle, or at least an answer. No, the Buddhists are not going to hell. And neither are the Hindus, the Muslims, the pagans, the Zoroastrians, the Jews, the atheists, the humanists, the agnostics. No one is going to hell. That's the Universalist answer. And I said to myself, boy, that's a good answer. No one is going to hell, not even the people we kind of wish would go to hell. So you might consider that a disadvantage, I don't know, but if you take the package, you got to go for the package. So this became the answer to my childhood question that kind of gave me some peace. Now, does this mean that there's no accountability for evil deeds in an afterlife, for example? Well, there could certainly be accountability. That's a possibility. But I just want to say, hell is not accountability. Hell is torture. Those are not the same thing. And we could talk about that at greater length, but I'll just leave that as it is for the moment. Now, you might think that this would be the end of all my questioning, but that has not been how it worked out. I have a somewhat active mind and can't seem to quiet it down that easily. The model that the old Universalists put forth, that eventually everyone would be brought into one great loving community with God as they thought about God. That theology is what I would call a model of inclusive love. It's a model. It's one way of thinking about inclusive love. That we're all wrapped in this inclusive love, and even though we may stray and we may do bad things, and we may not live a good life for certain parts of our life, that we're all on that path somehow. We're all on the path. Even if we're not doing very well on the path, we're still on that path. And so that is a powerful message. All are included and none are excluded. Everyone is in and no one is out. This is a powerful message. It's totally different from the hell model, which is clearly exclusive, not inclusive. In the hell model, some are in and the rest are out. And when they're out, it's not pretty. Some are excluded forever with no hope whatsoever. So it's a very different flavor of thinking about these things. Now, there are some problems with the Universalist model as well. And two of the problems that I want to touch on is that there are lots of people who don't believe in God. That's a problem right there. And there are also lots of people who don't believe there's an afterlife. So it creates some difficulties for the universalist model. And I'm going to try to fix that if I can, but I'm going to talk about something else first, if you'll give me a minute. I want to just say a moment about how the hell model has been misused over human history, because I think that's part of the problem with that model. For example, in the Inquisition was justified. Here's the justification for the Inquisition. If you can give people just a little bit of torture right now, just a little bit, won't hurt that much. No, that's not true at all. You could save them from an infinity of torture, right? So that's a good trade-off. We just do a little bit now. Get your soul straightened out, and you'll be in much better shape. So that was framed as being something good, a good thing. Now, I think that's pretty shocking to us, but that's the theological justification. Let me give you another example. The doctrine of discovery, which was a document that was given to the conquistadores who came over, that said that if they came to a land where the people were not Christians, any land in the world where the people were not Christians, they could do anything they wanted to do with those people. And I think I just won't list those things for the moment, although I bet you could come up with that list. And that's justified because you're converting them. And again, they'll be much better off for it. Similar kind of argument. The so-called Indian schools, which tried to reprogram Native young people, used the same justification. You're converting them, and therefore you're doing something good for them. It's a very strange argument, but that is the argument. You may be aware that the Pope Francis, about 6 months ago or so, well, maybe about a year, issued an apology for the doctrine of discovery. And then about 6 months ago, the Vatican issued a statement saying that the doctrine of discovery was wrong. Now, this doesn't solve all the problems, but it is heightened awareness. Isn't that kind of interesting? And I'll give you one more example, and that is that the slaves, the people who were brought from Africa and enslaved in the Americas, that was also justified as doing something good for those people because it would result in them becoming Christians. And one of the first waves of that horrendous activity was justified by some of the early participants as missionary work. It was missionary work. It was saving souls. So I just want to throw those out because those are examples of how that viewpoint has really been used in disturbing ways. All right. Okay, so I just want to throw out the idea that the immense cultural divide that we are in right now, which is really serious business, one of the ways we could characterize that, it is a divide between people whose view of society is primarily inclusive and people whose view of society is primarily exclusive. That's one way to look at it. And I think it fits pretty well with our UU heritage. So one of the ways we might say is that this works is, for example, inclusivists are usually people who want everyone to be able to participate in everything. They should be able to enjoy the full, every single person no matter, has a right to enjoy the benefits of the community. They have a right to vote. They have a right to a good education. They have a right to health care, all the basic necessities of life. That everyone should be included in that. No one should be persecuted for believing a different way or living a different way. Just everybody's in. That's the vision, the inclusive vision. And then the inclusivists use words like all the people, everyone, or religious language. Martin Luther King used to say, all God's children. See, that's everyone. That's everyone. And another one a phrase I have often heard in this room is a song called All God's Creatures Got a Place in the Choir. See, that's an inclusivist vision. That's everybody, all God's creatures. Some sing high, some sing low, some don't sing very well. Doesn't matter. You're in the choir. Exclusivists tend to be wary of people coming into an established society who are different, and from their point of view, disrupting that society. They're a danger. They tend to be suspicious of immigrants or people of color or LGBTQ plus people or people of different religions or people who don't have any religion at all. And they do not believe that everyone should automatically be given all the benefits of the society. I just think that's a fact. I don't think I'm exaggerating that. I think that's a fact. They use words like outsiders. That's a word. Or stealing what is ours. See, it doesn't belong to everybody, it belongs to us. And there's a real fear there. There's a real fear present in that view, I would offer up. Now, exclusivism is growing all over the world. Not everywhere, but in many places. Places in Europe, South America, Africa. We're exporting some of that stuff to Africa. You know, these extreme penalties that some countries in Africa have against LGBTQ plus people, we've exported some of that. Our religious people have exported that in many cases. So interestingly enough, right now, especially in the United States, the exclusive view is really anchored primarily by white Christian evangelicals who are my relatives that I grew up with. And I know them to be good, caring people too. I don't consider them bad people by any stretch of the imagination, but this view right now is being supported by that religious stance. And we could talk about the facts regarding that sometime if you want to. That's my idea of a good time, actually, sit around and talk about that. So the question that I've been thinking about, is there a correspondence between religious points of view and social behavior? And if you look at the examples of the Inquisition and the conquest and the enslavement, that all seems to support that idea. That if you have a view of reality as split, and that the ultimate destination of all of us is to be split up into two groups, one's going to get everything and one's going to get a horrible time, then what I'm suggesting is you tend to recreate that on earth. And I'm also suggesting then that if you have an inclusive vision where the vision is that everyone will ultimately come together, it's going to be long, it's going to be hard. Some people, my colleague Tony Reverend Mark Morrison Reed, some of you may know him, said some of the last ones will be dragged kicking and screaming into heaven. He has a sermon. Kicking and screaming, we will all be together. Then if you have a vision like that, then you will tend to produce more things like that in the world we live in. And I am an advocate of this. I've become convinced that this is true. But if you want to argue or just discuss, that would be fine. So if we don't have that inclusive vision, if we have then we tend to just start excluding people all over the world, excluding them from voting, if possible, exclude them from education or don't support education for everyone, exclude people from housing, exclude people from government benefit. I mean, you can just exclude people all over the world. If you have a basic framework, you might think that's the right thing to do. If you want to know more about this exclusive view, I want to just throw out an encouragement, which is to read something called the Project 2025 report. Take a look at that document, which describes how you can implement the exclusive program. So, our Universalist heritage, by contrast, has faith that somehow we're all on the road to the fullness of life, no matter how long it takes, and we're, in some sense, all going to get there. In some, we might think about that in different ways, but we're all going to get there. All right. I'm going to answer the two tough questions, and then it's time for coffee hour. So, one of the big tough questions is, maybe there isn't any God. A lot of people think that's true, and I'll bet some of them are right here in this room. What if there is no God? So that's a problem with the Universalist model. Another problem is, what if there isn't any hereafter? Because the Universalists talk about everybody being together. So maybe there isn't any hereafter. So those are two big problems. All right. This is the best I can do. First of all, we need to understand that stories are powerful, even when they're not true. Stories have power. Marcia told this beautiful, but she had a couple of supernatural deities in there too. You know, wasn't there a goddess on created one side and a god, you know, so a lot of our stories have these kinds of characters in them. So I want to think a moment about the Wizard of Oz. So in the Wizard of Oz, we have these three guys, the Scarecrow and the Tin Man and the Cowardly Lion. And they teach Dorothy some lessons. But there aren't any talking scarecrows or, you know, tin guys who walk around or cowardly lions that sing a song and becomes a big hit. Those also are creatures that don't exist. And our world is full of stories about creatures that may not literally exist. I mean, they're all over the place. So our life is drenched in those kind of stories. And we do not throw those stories in the garbage can. So I would say that we can learn courage, the importance of courage and clear thinking and a loving heart from watching The Wizard of Oz, even if it's not true in a literal sense. And we do that all the time. So a story does not have to be literally true to have value. And I would argue, and people like Joseph Campbell argue, that if you look at old stories like this and evaluate them on the literal truth, you are missing the boat. Because that's not where the power of the story is. The power of the story is in what it says to us about reality. not in whether or not there really was a scarecrow. That's not what's important. And so I just want to throw out that one can look at the universalist story about everybody going to heaven in a similar way. I mean, we just do that all the time. We go to see A Christmas Carol sometimes, or watch that old movie with those ghosts don't really exist in our literal scientific, hard surfaces kind of world, and yet they're powerful for us. So I just want to say that we can't throw out all those stories, or if we do, it's a horrible loss to us as a species. We need to treasure those stories when they contain powerful truth for us. And it's not a question of literalism. And I would just say that literalism is not the best path on this. The real path is, what does that say? And so I invite us then to cherish this story of ours. It's a tremendous story. And it lays out a vision for what our world can be like right here on this earth. Whether it happens somewhere else or not, it can happen right here. And so I invite us to treasure that story and to keep its message in our minds and hearts as we seek to create some kind of an inclusive community here and out there. So may it be. I invite you to rise in body or spirit, and we'll sing our closing hymn, number 95. There is more love somewhere. That's what the story says.
There's more love. There is more
rest your hands upon your heart, or if you want to clasp hands with those you share your life with during these times, and hear these words. May the blessings of life and love be upon us as we go forward to meet the day. May the wisdom of our ancestors and the insights of each new moment light our way as we journey through challenging times, knowing that love and justice are our guides, that we will support each other on our way, and that beloved community is possible for us now and in the days to come, as we engage ourselves to bring it into being. So may it be for us.